Hello everybody, this is Norzilla here with another tutorial on Ora Mastery. Today I'm going to go into Ora Mastery a little bit more in depth to get into the nitty-gritty with all the advanced settings, all the different triggers you can add, and also the appearance and the text. So let me just go over some things I have here real quick. So the first thing I have is empowering probes, which is just a is a buff. So I want to track whenever I have empowering probes on me. That way, let's say I didn't cast empowering probes, I can track if other medics have casted it, so I don't overwrite it. So first of all, you go to add, and as soon as you hit add, you click on advanced mode. So once you do that, you go ahead and you'll see here you can name it whatever you want. Now what you name it will also be the spell icon when you comes right here. So if you want to use a spell icon, is that make sure you name it whatever the spell is or the buff is or whatever. So the first thing here you have is the name, obviously, which I went over. Then you have the scale. First of all, let me go ahead and close this out so you guys can see it right here. This is what I have right now. So it's green, and in my logic, green means go ahead and cast it. It means it's not currently on anybody. So you have your scale here, which you can make it really big or really small, depending on what you want to do. You have your enable, which enables it. If it's not enabled, it's not even going to display it or anything. The border and the background, if I go ahead and get rid of the background, I don't have a background on it right now. Otherwise, there's borders and whatnot you can add to. I'll get that in a little bit. And then only in combat, so if I don't want these things to show when it's in combat, I go ahead and uncheck it, or check it, depending on what I like. Okay, I'm going to go straight to triggers real quick, and I'll come back to the rest of this. So triggers here, you go ahead and you just add a trigger, and you can put the priority of the triggers. So like you can say which trigger would take precedence over another one, depending if they were like similar triggers. So in here I have buff empowering probes. That's what I named it. What it is a type. It's buff, and it says if so when it's a buff and it's in pass, that means if I currently have the buff, then the behavior will pass it. If it's failed, then it's whenever I don't have the buff. So I put it when I want the buff name, powering probes. This is if you would like to add a stack amount. So let's say you're doing a raid and you were doing, instead of buff, you were doing debuff. And the boss puts a debuff on you. Like say you're a tank and you need to switch tanks after 5 stacks of something. Then you could make it so it pops up after, or it does this behavior after it gets that certain stack amount. You can do equals, you can do not equals, greater than, less than, greater than, equals to, or less than or equals to. So once you look at that, you can also look and see, okay, well, I want this buff to be either on the player or the target. So player would be you, so if you have the buff, or your target, if your target has the buff. Right now, Ora Mastery doesn't support focus units. I'm sure it will in the future though. So now you get down here to the pass or fail. So on pass or on fail, you go ahead and decide what you want for each of these effects down here. So you just add an effect. You have the icon color, flash, or activation border. Icon color is going to be like this, where the overlay is green. You can see down here on my Q slot that it's normally yellow. Right now, if you look at my icon color, if it fails, so if you look up here, you go if the buff empowering probes on player, then it passes. So this is if it doesn't pass, so it means it's not on me, then I'll turn the icon color to green. Here, if it fails, it turns the icon color to red. You can add additional things here, so like let's say I wanted to, when it's okay to cast this, I want to maybe add an activation border. So on fail, because when I don't have the buff, I would like to, I don't know, add this purple one. You can make it timed for a certain amount of time, or you can just make it until this changes. There's also flash as well, which will make the icon here kind of fade in and out. But let's go ahead and just add that one to it real quick. So as you see, now we have a purple border around it. When it's fail, if I go to pass and save, it'll go away. So I want to add another one, flash, is to show you what flash does. On fail, we'll save. So you can see now the icon kind of fades in and out. And since it's not timed, it'll do this endlessly until I'm no longer on this fail and I'm on pass. So in order to remove these, just click remove effect and then make sure you save. I highly recommend that after, as you can see, the border is still there, there's some issues. I highly recommend after you do any major changes, you do a /reload UI. Anyways, going on to appearance. Appearance is pretty straightforward. You can choose, the type of overlay you would like down here, whether you want a solid or an icon, or you want linear or radial. You can radial when you're looking at a buff wise, and let's say this was I had like maybe a cooldown timer. Well, radial will do just like a clock. It'll start here and it'll move the hour hand around until it gets done. Linear will go straight top from bottom to kind of show you the different things that way. The overlay, solid or icon, basically solid is going to be just a solid straight thing there. Icon would be no background or anything like that, just the icon. So here's where you can pick your different icons you'd like. You could pick spell icon, which is what I typically do because it's most helpful to me. Another thing you can do here, over here on here, is the icon color and the overlay color. So anything that would overlay, like again, I go back to like cooldowns and stuff. If it's on cooldown, the overlay is going to pop up. So for instance, let me go ahead and down to here real quick and enable this so you guys can see it. This is going to be my empowering probes. So as soon as I hit empowering probes, you'll see that there's this overlay that hits all of a sudden. Again, to show you the radial one will goes in a circle rather than from top to bottom. So, and sorry, the overlay with the solid or icon will depend on whether or not the whole thing is actually targeted or just the icon itself has the overlay. So this depends on what you'd like. You can change what the overlay color is. Now the overlay color isn't going to be red, as you can see here. It's really a lot darker. It kind of just gives it a special layer over it, which will make that darker into that tint. You can also change the icon color. Obviously, if you use spell icon color will not matter. If you go into text now, you can kind of look here that you have a lot of kind of a grid thing. See this icon in the background. The icon in the background is the same icon up here over on the side. You can choose where you'd like to add text. You can change the text color and the text font. There are specific variables that you can find on the Ora Mastery website. Some of them like time, so time remaining on a buff. So again, when I hit my Q, right here would be the time. It's only going to display if it's greater than 0, so it'll just count down. Me, I like to label what they are. So empowering probes cooldown, you can just do that by adding one of these and then just changing it up here. Instead of putting square brackets, just put whatever you want. So I could make it like oops, not add but save. So like that. Very simple to do. Going back to triggers now, there are a few other triggers that we can do. Let me go ahead and add a different one real quick. So the different types of triggers that we can add are going to be, oh, there we go. They're going to be cooldown. So if the item is on cooldown, if it's not on cooldown, if I have the buff, if I don't have the buff, if I have the debuff, or if I don't have the debuff, or like I said, target as well. On critical works, but it does not work currently for healing crits. It only works for damage crits. On deflect, so if you deflect something, if you're a tank and you have a ability that would proc if you deflected, you could add that. You could do resources, so if your resources hit a specific level, you could do that. If your health does a specific level, you have moment of opportunity, scriptable, and keybind. So moment of opportunity is a little bit buggy right now, so I'm not going to get into it. Scriptable is where you can actually write your own script, and keybind is it's like if you wanted to say, I don't know, you know something is on cooldown or something like that, you can add a whenever the 3 is pressed, which is my fissure, then I could add like a 14-second timer that goes down, something like that. So that's pretty much the gist of it. The only other things that you can do is you can have it so you play a sound when it happens. You can, in the advanced mode, you can make it so that it's only shown part of the time. So always means that this is always going to be shown whether it's in combat or not, depending on what this is checked up here. All would mean that all of the triggers are passing. So if all the triggers pass, then it will display. Any means if any one of the triggers will pass, then it will display. And none means if none of the triggers pass, then it will display. So you can have multiple triggers on here to get really in depth with something. Like, let's say, you want to see if my health is at 100% and my mana is below 20%. You can make something happen. You can add multiple triggers in there. Or you could have it so, for instance, let's say you're a DPS class and you're critting a lot. Well, you're critting a lot more than your ability goes off cooldown that, procs when you crit. Well, you could make it so if my ability is not on cooldown and if I crit, then it shows it. Stuff like that. So the only other thing here is you can do play a sound. So same thing, all, any, or none. So if all of the triggers pass, it'll play a sound. If any of the triggers pass, it'll play a sound. Or if none of them, then play a sound. So just make sure that you look through all of this and kind of get it going as much as you'd like. So I'm going to take this time to go through a couple more what I have going on here. So mending probes, this is just a basic cooldown one. I named it cooldown mending probes. This is the trigger name. It's a cooldown. If it passes, then it just basically pops up, it flashes and it adds an activation border. This is basically a spell icon, and this. Well, here's one that's a little bit different. It's my mission. So I have a tier 4 ability on my mission that says if I'm below 250 mana, then my mission will be a free cast. It won't cost any mana to use or focus. So here's what I did. I just did, name it whatever, trigger 1. It was a resource, and then pass, and then you can pick whether it's your actual resource or if it's your mana. So you could say, instead of this, it could be like my actual little actuators down here instead. So, but if my mana is less than 250, and you can either put percent or you can do a static number here. In my case, it has to be a static number. Then it will, and then that will consider it being passed if that's true. Then on pass, I just add an activation border. And if you look over here, I only show it if any of the triggers pass. So pretty simple. And I also have text up here that says free emission, so I know. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Ora Mastery. It's really nice and handy to have. You can, in case you missed my previous video, you can hit this little lock up here to move these around. Otherwise, I'll just be stuck in the middle, and you can click it to that. Just make sure that you do a /reload UI often with this, because there's a lot of issues right now with open beta with add-on data saving if you log out without a /reload UI. So if you don't do a /reload UI, chances are whatever you did in Ora Mastery is not going to work. If you want to share what you did with your friends, you go ahead and click on whatever one you'd like to share, whichever little thing up here. Then you click export. That immediately copies it to your clipboard. So when you copy it to your clipboard, you can just paste it. If you want to import something, you would copy whatever the code is off of the forums, put it in, when you copy it, it puts it in your clipboard and hit import. That will add whatever you imported from the clipboard into this. If you're importing multiple things, after each import, do a /reload UI or you'll run into some errors. Alright guys, well I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please go ahead and post in the comments below. Otherwise, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I do post videos pretty much daily. I do a lot of achievement tutorial videos right now and a lot of add-on tutorials. Have a good day.